Welcome, everybody, to the Cat Dad Show. I'm your host, Scott Colby. Of course, I'm a cat dad. And question for you. Are you ever stressed when you're going on vacation? And let's say you have a cat and you're not sure how to take care of them while you're gone. Should you get a pet sitter? Should you take your cat to a boarding facility? Well, in today's episode, we're going to cover all of that. We're going to cover when's the best time to leave your cat at home and maybe have a pet sitter come in. When is a really good time to bring your cat to a boarding facility? We'll talk all about the pros and cons of those. We're also going to cover a couple other unique subjects. We're going to share with you some details on if you already own a cat and you want to get a dog, let's say, how do you mix and match and mingle with a cat and a dog and have them live in peaceful harmony? So, we're going to go through that as well as building cat resilience. A lot of cats get stressed if they're moving to a new location or being taken to a boarding facility or even being introduced to a new pet. So, we're going to cover how to increase resiliency in cats. And with that said, I don't have any information about any of this. So, I have a special guest, Eve Molzhon. Let me tell you a little bit about Eve. She's been in the dog training world for 20 years and the dog, cat, and small animal boarding world for 11. She attends numerous seminars across the country, learning more about pets and their behaviors. Eve, welcome to the Cat Dad Show.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to talk about cats. I talk dog all the time. So it's just great to talk about cats and their uniqueness and all of their traits and qualities.
Yeah, and I know we were chatting before we went live on a lot of your podcast interviews that you do tend to talk about dogs all day long. So I know you and I are both excited to talk about cats because they can be strange creatures, as we all know. And I just had one of my cats, you could see, just ran and jumped up right on the cat tree to my right over here. Eve, I want to know a little bit about your journey. Like, where did your love of animals come from? And how did that inspire you to where you are today, where you're training dogs and you're boarding cats and dogs and you're running an academy even?
Yeah, so I grew up in a trailer park where if you had a dog, you were okay. So I did have a dog and a cat growing up. And then once my dog passed away, they made a new rule that you couldn't have dogs anymore. So then I just really grabbed onto cats. So I had indoor, outdoor cats, one cat that was indoor and one cat that went back and forth. And curiosity of why did one want to stay inside? Why did one like to go in and out? Why did one like to bring me dead things? Why did one like to sleep under the covers and one like to sleep on top of the covers? So just their uniqueness, I found super interesting. And then when I became an adult and obviously got my own place, cats were a little bit easier fit into the 20-year-old lifestyle. So really just kind of kept going with animals and had cats. And then got my first dog, my Dalmatian, who was an absolute brat, was so mean to to me in the sense of like would eat everything in my house, my couch, my clothes, ate all the buttons off my dress shirts, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just really started to get into animal psychology and went from there to training service dogs and then into hunting dogs. Learned a lot about prey drive. And that's a big piece when we're talking dogs and cats, right? Like one likes to run and one likes to chase. So really learned a lot about that actually from the hunting world and how all that works. And then that got me into boarding dogs, and then people would be like, "Hey, can you watch my cat?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I love cats. Yes, let me have cats." Because I had hunting dogs, so I couldn't have cats because of that prey drive. So I was like, "Yes, I'll watch your cat." And then I started going down that rabbit hole, and I started attending a lot of seminars to learn about cat psychology and how to make boarding as least stressful as you possibly like you had said, travel no matter what. Travel as a human is stressful, right? Like, did I pack everything? What did I forget? I have to, wear certain clothes to go through the airport and just all that kind of stuff. So really learned a lot about that. And I have several mentors in the cat industry that occasionally I'll turn to and ask questions of. But yeah, cats and dogs are different when it comes to boarding. There's similarities. Obviously, it's a different environment. But just how you make cats feel more comfortable is a little different than how you make dogs feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and I know we'll dig more into that. I just love that you are learning more about cat behavior, psychology, just the I've talked to other, people on this cat dad show who communicate with cats. It's just, oh my gosh, it's just, amazes me, like, how much you can dig into the cat psychology side of things. And I know you also so you do cats and dogs and some other small animals. What are some of these
Yeah.
other small animals that you
So,
take care of?
ferrets, potbelly pigs. That's kind of our tagline.
Okay.
So we do dogs, cats, ferrets, and potbelly pigs. We've
Love
done
off the cat.
turtles. We've done rats, flying squirrels, African gray birds. I have a giant cockatoo coming tomorrow named Reggie,
Oh my
and
god.
Reggie will talk to me the entire stay, which is great. He's phenomenal and he loves to dance. So we do a lot of head bobbing, you feel like you're bobbing in the car. But yeah, so really just expanding my knowledge and learning about various species. Um, Underlying message in all of them is truly building resiliency in all animals.
Mm.
Um, Us humans as well, right? Like we're in the same boat. But yeah, just learning what are their stress factors, what are things that heighten their stress, what are signs of stress, is another key component with all of that too. With cats and medications and things like that, slightly different. I can't hide a cat medication in a hot dog like I can for a dog. You know, what are things that drive them, and get them, to participate in the experience with me. But yeah, so no, we've done a lot of various animals, and it's always great and exciting to learn. Kind of takes you down the rabbit hole, and thank goodness for YouTube,
Yeah.
and Google.
No pun intended, takes you down the rabbit hole.
Absolutely, absolutely. And podcasts like yours. I mean, there's
Yeah.
there's just so much to learn. And in my opinion, we don't know what we don't know, and things are always changing and evolving. So that's always exciting to just learn more.
Yeah, and learning about all those different types of animals, it reminds me how much in awe I am of veterinarians, who, of course, it's tough to be a doctor, but they're treating just the human body.
One
Veterinarians are,
species.
yeah, yeah, one species. Veterinarians are treating all different types of species, and you really have to know the ins and outs of all of them. Okay, so Eve, let's kind of dig in and talk about, like we mentioned, people, let's say they're going on vacation and they have a cat and they don't know what to do with their cat. Should they have a pet sitter come in or should they take their cat somewhere like a boarding facility? For me personally, I have two new cats now, Nico and Milo.
Yep.
They're about 1 year old. And my previous cats, Mia and Nomar, I had Mia for 20 years. And for them, I always had a pet sitter come in because I was under the assumption that, hey, they would be more comfortable in their own home, just kind of staying put. So I was thinking maybe we could just think of Nico and Milo as an example and maybe walk me and
Sure.
the audience through that thought process. So let's say I'm leaving town. I need somebody to take care of Nico and Milo. I'm considering a pet sitter coming in or taking my cats to a boarding facility that sees cats. What are some of the things I should be thinking about when I try to make that decision?
Yeah. So the big thing is, where did your cats come from? So in your example, you said they came from a cafe, is where you
Pet cat.
adopt.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're used to human interaction. They're used to playtime and active time. They're used to seeing things happening and moving around. So for them, that was an enjoyment piece, right? That was a stimulus that was part of their everyday life. So if you have a pet sitter come in, that's one person. They're going to come in, scoop the litter, check the food and water, and leave. So your cats are getting maybe 10 minutes of that stimulation.
Right.
Based on their age, they might need more than that.
Which they're one, I was saying. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're
So
young. They're young.
so they need more stimulation.
Okay.
So if you were doing a pet sitter at their age, I would make sure that you have toys that you want the pet sitter to engage with them, to give them that stimuli. Um, and then if you have anything that your pet sitter could maybe come in twice a day, so like once in the morning and once in the evening. And if you have like a laser beam machine that your pet sitter could set off, so that way, again, they're getting that stimuli a little bit. That's a great thing. Um, Pet Edge sells them. I know Amazon sells them. We have
Hmm.
them in our condo areas.
Mine love
So
it.
yeah, yep. So you can just set the timer for 20 minutes, hit the button, and now there's a laser show. Again, we want to give your cat some stimulation. That's what they're used to. Plus, when you're home, you're interacting, right? Like you're providing stimulus with them. So that's one of the things to consider based on age and where they came from.
Okay.
S-
And I know we're gonna dive more into the
Yep.
boarding side of things, but what would be a situation in terms of where they came from and or age where you feel like, "Oh, pet sitting might make more sense?"
Yeah. So if your cat is, I would say, middle aged and the only time you've ever removed your cat from the house was to take it to the and it was a nightmare and you got clawed and your cat was stressed for like a week after it came out of the cat carrier from the vet visit, then taking them to a boarding facility because they don't have resilience yet would be uber stressful for them. So in that scenario, cat only leaves the house every umpteen years. So when putting them in the pet carrier, if that is just super stressful, they're scratching at you. You take them to the vet. That's really traumatic. When you bring them home from the vet, if they spend a week or two and they're still mad at you, maybe they've got some diarrhea. It was just such a stressful event. I would not take them to a facility for boarding. That would
Okay.
be where I would bring somebody in because no matter what, until you build resiliency in your cat, right? Like you don't want to drop your cat off at a boarding facility and then the entire time, like the people can't interact with your cat because it is so stressed out and it's going to scratch them. You don't want your cat having diarrhea at a boarding facility and just being super upset. So if your cat is, I'm going to say antisocial, given the circumstances and the carrier just is way too much for them, then yes, a pet sitter is absolutely the way to go with that one. We talked a little bit about age, and the older your cat gets, the more I would recommend a boarding facility just so they can monitor. A
Mm,
lot of times people think, well, my cat's old, it hasn't gone to a boarding facility before. I'm not sure. I think a pet sitter would be good. Depending on age and health, might want to reconsider that because your pet sitter is only going to stop in once or twice. And if your cat, again, isn't overly social, how's the pet sitter gonna know where it's at?
eh,
Um, so that's where it gets to be a little tough. If your cat's not gonna come out and say hello and it is an older cat, you would not want your pet sitter to be like, "Oh, nope, I haven't seen the cat for 2 days. There wasn't any food eaten. Where is the cat? Did it pass away?" So those are just some things to consider. Now, again, based on age, that one gets to be a little bit tougher call. Like at 20 years old, holy buckets, like amazing, amazing. So yeah, so that's where at 20 years old, if your cat is social in the sense of it's gonna come out when a pet sitter comes, it's gonna, when it hears the ching of the food hitting the food bowl and it's gonna come out, then a pet sitter would be fine. If your cat isn't gonna come out, then I would recommend taking it somewhere just so that way you've got eyes on the
yeah, that's a great point about age, and them getting older because my previous 2 cats, um, they had each other, so I think they were getting probably a little bit of interaction with each other, but when they were younger, I only had a pet sitter come actually every other day. We were doing just dry food and filled the bowls up, but then as they got older, as I started to get a little bit more worried about their
Right.
health, I had pet sitters come every day and then eventually twice a day.
Yep.
So it sounds like, if I wanted eyes on them on a more regular basis, having maybe taken them to a boarding facility may have been a good call at that point.
Yeah, and that's really it. And that's where as that age thing kind of comes up. That's the key thing to all of that is really, even having cameras, right? Like that's super beneficial. Having cameras are so cheap now, like having one that points like where their favorite hiding place is, so you can keep eyes on them. I haven't seen the technology for cats yet. It's getting there, but for dogs, they now have a mat that dogs can lay on that will actually take their heart rate and their temperature. So I have a feeling for cats, it will probably be coming. If it hasn't already happened, I'm actually traveling to Super Zoo in a couple of weeks, and that's one of the big shows, and all the new products are out there. So hopefully, someone is designing that so that way it would just give you peace of mind where you could just go on the app on your phone and then see, is your cat comfortable? Are they resting? What is their metabolic rate looking like and things like.
Let's say I've decided to take Nico and Milo, my 2 new cats, to a boarding facility. I'm leaving town and I found a boarding facility that looks good, that looks like they have good reviews and I like their website. But I want to know more information because these are, you know, strangers that I'm taking my cats to.
100%.
What are some of the types of questions that I should be asking the boarding facility?
Yeah, so a couple big ones for the boarding facility is, are they making sure that either cats are getting tested for feline leukemia or vaccinated? Because that is a terminal thing that they can pass on from cat to cat. So if a cat has feline leukemia and it hisses and little droplets go over to the other cat, that cat could now get feline leukemia. And again, because it's terminal, that's a big one. And a lot of times people don't get that as a vaccine or get tested for that because the cat lives in their house. They don't think about that before they go. So that is either a vaccine or a test. So just find out which one the facility requires before you're going to board your. And definitely think about this a few months in advance because veterinarians are very busy right now. So that's a big one. Are they checking for fleas, and how are they checking for fleas? So, as an example, I require a flea and tick preventative and to be checked for fleas. So, when the cat comes in, we flea it real quick with a comb just to make sure we don't see anything. And then a lot of times people forget, well, my cat's an indoor cat, but you have a dog, and the dog goes outside and the dog comes inside. So, the dog could be bringing fleas onto the. Um, so, that's why, we actually have to check for it. And then what things are they giving your cat for stimuli? And how does that look? Are there cat towers? Are there toys? Is there a laser? There a laser show at night? So that way they can, be all excited like a cat normally is, right? Like our cats love to wake us up in the middle of the night. So how are they providing a stimulus for the. Another couple key things that I really like to see are, is there a pheromone plug-in? So pheromones are a way for cats to feel comfortable, and there's specific ones for them. Kind of calms them down. Thundershirt makes a great one, and that's the one that I use in my facility. Um, and then air purification. How are they making sure that if there's 5 litter boxes in this room, does it stink? Is there fresh air coming in? Are they exhausting out dirty air? So, what is the air quality like? And that's a simple question. Like, do you have air purifiers? Um, Touring facilities gets to be a little bit of a gray area. So, I don't like to give tours because I find that people can't keep them hands to themselves. And so they want to stick their hands and touch the other little kitties or the other little animals. So I don't like to give tours. That being said, it's a glass window to look into my cat boarding area. So I'll walk them up to the door and I'll be like, see, you can see all the cats in there. And I have a virtual tour on my website so people can see what condos look like. Um, how often is the litter changed and or scooped? Is a good question. And how frequently are staff interacting with? And then what is their interaction policy? So again, for your older cat, would probably have enjoyed maybe someone coming in and petting a little bit. How often is a staff member coming in and actually engaging with your. And if your pet doesn't want to be engaged with, is that okay at the facility? Or are you going to get a call as a pet parent saying, yep, your cat wants to claw my eyes out. You need to come and get it right now. Like, how do they handle if a cat is getting stressed out or if a cat doesn't want engagement? What is their policy? So that way you kind of know, if they're going to call me and tell me I have to pick up my cat because my cat's having a bad day, I'm going to be on a cruise ship. This is not going to work. I might want to look at an alternative, either facility or a pet sitter.
Um, when you talked about social interaction, like how often the staff, interacts with the cats, what is a good, I guess, a good number of times that your cat is interacted with and played with?
I would say anywhere from 3 to 6.
Okay.
If you think about how your day is scheduled, or people that work, right? So like you see the cat in the morning, you feed it, you give the cat a few pets, you interact with it a little bit, then you off to work. You come home for work, the cat greets you, you pet a little bit, give it some more food. Um, you make dinner, you eat dinner, you sit down on the couch, the cat comes up, right? Now it's getting some interaction. So if you think about how often you're physically interacting with your cat, probably 3 to 6 times a day. So you want to just make sure that the facility is kind of mimicking that there is at least that opportunity for interaction.
And then what about food? Like a good example actually is Nico, one of my current cats. He's on a special GI diet food because we're looking at potentially he has like a food allergy. So he has a special diet right now. Is it typical for the cat owner to be able to bring in their own food that the cats are used to?
Yep, absolutely. Because we don't want to change their diet because that's going to upset that GI tract and then cause diarrhea. So absolutely. So definitely check on how they want you to bring the food in. So some facilities are, if your dog is eating a dry food, we'll say package it up into individual Ziploc bags per day or per meal. Some facilities will say, just bring me the whole bag, and we'll portion it out. So that would be the other thing to double check. I can tell you that if it's a can of wet food and the cat does not get the entire can at the meal, it's always great if you can bring a lid or a Tupperware container and then write the cat's name on that Tupperware container. Because if we're putting it in the fridge, we want to make sure that we don't make that mistake. A lot of facilities are going to have that, but it's just a nice way to just really kind of ensure things. Um, but yeah, the dry food and the wet food are always a thing. Most facilities are going to have a refrigerator. So some people like to make their own cat food, or like you had said, if your cat is on a special diet and needs some extra things, most facilities are going to have a refrigerator. So you wouldn't have to worry about that too much. Um, the other thing too is cats and dogs, they smell things, right? Like they come up, they're sniffing. So if you are able to, again, depending on the facility, send something that smells like home. And whether that's maybe a t-shirt that you wore the day before, not freshly clean. It needs to have your smell on it because that's what gives the cat comfort is that comfort smell. Don't usually require you to bring like if your cat has a big bed or a special thing, um, but just something that they can put into a cubby or put onto the floor area that just has your scent that's going to offer comfort. That is always a great recommendation to do.
What if your cat is taking medicine? Do boarding facilities typically administer that?
Yeah, most of us do. And most of us have some really good um, insights. A lot of us have vet tech people that work for us. So whether it's insulin, which right now I think I have 2 diabetic cats that are staying with us, so we do insulin, is great. When you're bringing pills, super important that you bring it in the bottle that it came in, simply because if heaven forbid, right, you're in a traffic accident and now you're delayed by several days. Always good to bring the medicine in the bottle so that way we've got extra just in case. I live in Wisconsin. In the winter, people travel, things get delayed. A couple Fridays ago, didn't wasn't there some big shutdown with the airlines? So it's always good to bring extra, just in case. Super important. Or if anything were to transpire and we needed to get a hold of the veterinarian, should have all that information right on that bottle for us. Every facility is going to have protocols of how they handle the medication. So don't worry about that part of it. For us, we put meds in little coin envelopes and we mark them per day. So we've got a system for us. But every facility is going to have a different way of doing that. But it's always very helpful for you to bring it in the bottle and have a few extra just in case.
My, previous cat, Mia, she had kidney disease, so she had to get the, gosh, why can't I think of it now? She had to get, treatment for her kidney disease, not just a pill, but it was a, a needle that went in
Prescription.
her. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do y'all do that?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
So we do. And again, just making sure that we have everything that we're going to need. A lot of times too, because you've been doing it at home, the cats are like, yeah, I know what's going on. Like, it's not a big deal. So they get kind of used to it, especially like our diabetic cats. You'll give them the food and they're like, yeah, I'm not going to eat that right away because you're going to give me a shot after I eat my food. So a lot of times we do have to kind of add a little something in there. So I might dip my finger in another cat's wet food and kind of rub it on the diabetic dog cat's a dry food a little bit just to entice them. It's always super important to let us know if your animal does have food allergies, because if we do have to entice them, if they take a medication that requires them to eat, that's really important for us to know. And or if your cat is stressed the first day and not eating or not eating as well as we would like, um, almost every facility is going to. There's toppers that you can put on, like it's sprinkled dried fish. Um, Baby food is always great. Almost every cat will eat some baby food, by the way. So we all have little tips and tricks to get your cat to eat, but it's super important that we know if there are any dietary restrictions, such as allergies or things along those lines.
I've never fed my cat baby food.
It works almost
Oh,
every time.
my cat Mia that passed away last year, kind of at the end of her life, she was diagnosed with lymphoma, so we were doing
Uh,
steroids, which she wouldn't. It had a bitter taste.
yep.
Um, so we finally put the steroids in whipped cream because the vet said it was okay, and she
Mhm.
ate that up. I'm like, "Oh, man, I didn't find out she liked whipped cream until the last month of her life," but,
Right? You could
oh,
have taken her through the drive-through and gotten her a pup cup, and then she
yeah,
could have had some, whipped
oh,
cream.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, whipped cream is in our dossier of things to work on. But yeah, baby food, it's chicken, so it's
Okay,
just
yeah.
mush. Looks like pudding, but it's chicken. So a lot of times we'll use that. We've got chicken and beef that we always have on hand. Because if the cat needs to take a pill, I try everything before I have to pill. Um, because we don't want to make it unpleasant. We don't want to make it unpleasant for them, and we don't want them to be afraid of us. Which pilling an animal, dog, cat, bunny, ferret, doesn't matter. Nobody likes a pill shoved down their throat. So the more opportunities that we have to just hide it in something and make it fun or enjoyable for them, the better.
You mentioned, I think you said that you all have a vet tech on staff, I think. I just wanted to expand on that.
Yeah.
Towards the end of Mia's life, whenever I got a pet sitter, I made sure they were either like a vet student or a vet
Mhm.
tech because I was so worried and I wanted that peace of
Abs
mind. If something happened to Mia while I was out of town, I wanted a vet, somebody with vet experience. So is that pretty typical for boarding facilities to have somebody
It
with vet
is.
experience on hand?
Yeah, it really is. If you think about the veterinary world, veterinarians as a profession have the highest suicide rate of any prevention or of any profession out there. Um, it's hard. Like they're watching good animals be euthanized. They're watching people say goodbye to their animals. Like it's a tough job, and they see it day in and day out. So a lot of times vet techs will get burned out. So they want to come to a cat and boarding facility, right? Where it's enjoyable, where you get to play with the animals and they go home healthy and alive and all those good things. So it's pretty common that there will be vet techs that work at our facilities or veterinary students. We have a local university that has a pre-vet club. So I usually have one or two individuals that are going to be going to school to be veterinarians that are getting all of their biology and that piece that work for me. So for them, it's an educational piece, um, like you see in the movies where doctor students are learning how to do shots inside of oranges and peaches. We do that same thing when we're training our new hires on how to give subcutaneous injections. So we do that. a lot of times by utilizing all of those vet techs that want to come and work for us. I think at the moment I have 2 vet techs that work for me. One is full time and one is part time. I'm her side job. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, a lot of them do because it gives them an enjoyment piece. Um, it's a lot happier when you get to have positive interactions with the pets versus holding them down to get a shot or to have their temperature taken. So yeah, we offer the happier side of it.
Yeah, and you, said the word I couldn't think of, when I was talking about Mia's kidney treatments, subcutaneous fluids. That's what I
Yes.
was that's what I was trying to remember.
We had to take care of a hamster that was getting uh, fluid. So we had to hook the saline bag up and then take the tube and the needle and then inject it into the hamster. And they had to get fluid twice a day
Yeah.
for 3 days while it was with us. So yeah, that was a new learning experience for me.
Are the cats in your facility, do they interact with the other cats and dogs? And also, where exactly are they sleeping?
Oh, great question. So for us, it's on completely opposite sides of the building, so that way they don't hear any dog barking. We usually play Wisconsin Public Radio. It is our music inside the room. So they get some classical music, they get some talk radio. There's some random things that will play on Wisconsin Public Radio. But for me, I always feel like what they play mimics kind of, again, life in a household. You're hearing a commercial, you might hear some music playing, so that's what we play. And for us, the cats are right behind our front desk. So right off our lobby, behind our front desk at my big facility is, well, it was 2 offices. And then we just converted those into our cattery area. At my other facility, same thing. It's actually off of a side hallway, right next to our break room. So far, far away from the dogs so that way they don't have to hear barking. Both of my facilities, in fact, the cat rooms are on their own HVAC system. So they're not smelling any dog smells that might get into the ductwork or into the HVAC system. So again, it just provides that sense that they don't have to inhale dogs in case they're afraid of dogs, if just that smell is going to cause anxiety. So that's a feature that we offer at both of my facilities. And then, so on top of radio and smell, and we have the pheromones. So we also want to make it so they're close enough to our front desk. So our front desk staff is constantly checking in on them, in and out. All of our cat areas, the door is a exterior door, so it's solid, and then glass on the top, so we can even just peek in and make sure that everything looks good and everybody's okay. We don't allow our cats to play with each other simply because I don't want to have to put on some Kevlar gloves to separate 2 cats who maybe are decided that they don't want to
Mhm.
play together.
Yeah.
So although we don't allow non-household cats to play together, if you have 2 cats from the same household, they can stay in the same suite and then they can interact with each other. On the off chance that I just have 1 or 2 cats boarding with me, we'll rotate and allow one of them free roam of the room so they can come out and roam around the room. We put a sign on the door that says free roaming cat. So that way we know to be cautious when we're opening the door and give them outside playtime outside of their suite. Um, our suites are big. So that's the other thing to think about too when you're looking at a boarding facility. Sometimes they have just these plexiglass cubes. Think of a kennel, like at a veterinary clinic that the cats stay in. And again, for some cats, that would be appropriate. But for us, we like them to have opportunity to climb, again, if age appropriate. So, and the other key thing is all of our condo areas have 2 cubbies for cats. I always want to give them 2 options of
Mm.
places to go into and hide out if they so desire. So, my single cat areas are either 3 by 4 or 4 by 4. And then my double cat areas are 6 by 4, 6 feet by 4 feet. So giving them opportunity to get out, roam around, climb up the cat tower, have a scratch pad. So that's important. But yeah, non-household cats, I'm not comfortable with that one. There are some facilities that might do that. And again, that just then becomes a risk for you as the pet owner to determine, is that a risk you feel like comfortable.
Non-household cats, meaning
2 cats from not the same house.
oh, not the same house. Okay. What about if, a cat is an indoor-outdoor cat? Do you take the cat outdoors at all or keep him inside?
We do if you provide me a stroller.
Oh, my friend, she takes her cat, out on walks in a stroller.
Yeah, we have a couple cats that come
Amazing.
stay with us, and then, the pet parents play it we have extra services that we offer, and one of them is one-on-one playtime, and so they will bring us their stroller, and we'll put the cat in the stroller, and we'll just take a little tour around the neighborhood and come back. So that's their playtime. But yeah, nope, if they provide the stroller, I have no problem. A harness I'm not as comfortable with just in case they were to slip out of it. But that would be a little scary for me. Oh, and the other piece too is both of our cat rooms have windows to the outside. The other thing
Mm,
you want to look at is how secure are those windows? So
oh,
we actually have chicken wire that we have stapled to the exterior of the window. So even if a cat somehow were to exit the enclosure, scratch out the screen area, they are still going to then now incur chicken fencing, which, unless you have a super strong cat, I think I'm safe on that one. So there's their kennel wire, then there's the screen of the window, and then there's chicken wire just to
mm.
ensure they don't escape. Nobody wants to lose a pet at a facility. No facility wants to lose anyone's pet. So, um, and some people just don't think about those things. I mean,
Mm.
my philosophy is if they can, they will. So I always just try and think of if I was the pet and I didn't want to be here, how am I going to get out? And then I try and problem solve backwards from there.
See, you're thinking like a cat.
Trying my best.
Don't do
Oh, yeah, and
that.
we also have a drop ceiling in the cat rooms that we have screwed, washers and rivets to, so then even if a cat were to get out and try and push up on my fake ceiling, they can't get up and crawl around up inside there.
Nice. You've thought of everything.
So,
Good
yeah, I'm
job.
11 years into this, I hope so.
That's so smart though. They'll figure something out. But I'm glad you mentioned a while back about the siblings can still play with each other. My cats now, Nico and Milo, they're bonded brothers, so they
Oh,
needed to be
absolutely.
adopted together, and so I'm sure they would wanna be able to interact and still wrestle each other and all that good stuff.
Yeah, one thing that you always wanna let people know too, so, like, if you feed at home and you put, like, one cat gets fed on one side of the kitchen and the other cat gets
Mm,
fed on the other side of the kitchen, that's something to let the facility know, because we might put both bowls next to each other thinking that, "Oh, they're a bonded pair."
mm,
If you're like, "No, they don't like to eat next to each other." That's a good detail of information that you wanna let any boarding facility know, and honestly, even your pet sitter as well. Just because if your pet sitter is kind of a little absent-minded and, puts both bowls next to each other, you don't want anybody to have to try and break up a scuffle between your cats. And you want both of your cats to feel, again, comfortable that they can come and approach the food dish and enjoy their meal.
let's say I've decided to bring, Nico and Milo to your facility. You've won me over. Is there anything I can do as the pet parent before I bring them in that would make this go any smoother?
Absolutely. So the big thing is the carrier. I think the carrier by far is the scariest thing for the pet owners. So many times they come in and they hand me the carrier and I take it and I'm like, "How are we doing?" And they go, "And I'm like, "Hey, we're gonna have a fun 24 hours." A lot of times after that first, like honestly, 12 to 16 hours, the cats are fine. But it's that initial, like, I don't know, I was just in this carrier. I got shoved in here. It was unpleasant. I have no idea where I'm going. So that is one, have the carrier just sitting out in the living room. And then that smell, right? The smell is super important. So if you can lay a towel maybe on their cat bed where they normally lay or on a perch that they normally lay, so then that towel can accompany them. And I would say accompany as in wrap them up like a little burrito and then put them in the carrier wrapped in that smell. That's always a nice benefit. But yeah, a couple weeks before you're gonna take the trip and you know the cat's gotta go on the carrier, just leave the carrier out. Maybe throw some good treats in there. Maybe put the cat's bowl of food in there, put it in the kitchen next to their meal. So anything you can do to just desensitize them to that carrier, put them in, leave them in there for 5 minutes, let them back out and be like, oh, it wasn't. Um, just knowing that getting them in that carrier, usually the only time you put them in there is when you're taking them to the vet, and that's not a fun experience for
Mm.
them. So we want them to not see that carrier as the negative.
One thing I love with, pet sitters, is they give me daily updates. They'll take pictures. They'll send pictures to me. Do you
Yeah.
all communicate with the pet parents when they're out of town and they've left their cats with you for a time?
Yeah, so every facility will be a little different. Some of them will offer you a paparazzi package where for an extra fee, they'll send you pictures and videos and all that
Heck
kind of
yeah.
stuff. But yeah, you definitely wanna check on that one. For us with the cats, sometimes we can't get the best pictures because they don't wanna come out of those little cubbies that we've
Yeah.
created that they nest in. But certainly, yep, we try and take pictures of all of our cat guests and post them to our Facebook page, and people are always welcome to call. I've had people on the phone since our cat areas are right behind our front desk, so I've been on the phone and I'll walk back and I'll be like, "Hi, Onyx, you know what? Dad wants to say hi," and, see if I can get the cat to meow or just say something is always something that we would try and encourage just to give people that peace of mind, that their cat is good and doing well. But yeah, most facilities are going to have some way to communicate with you. Sometimes it's through their app program, sometimes it'll be through Facebook, or it might just be a text message. But certainly, um, you should always feel that you have that ability to call and check in on your.
Are there any, misconceptions that pet parents have about, cat boarding facilities that maybe any myths
Oh, yes. I
you
hear
can
it
get
all the
out?
time and it breaks my heart. They walk in and they're like, I'm not taking it to the pound. I'll be back. And I'm
Oh
like,
my the
right place is not the pound. Come on now. And dog, cat, every species, by the way, like it's everybody. They say this, I'm coming back for you. And I'm like, first off, I'm sure they can feel your nervousness, right? Like we are all beings of energy. So
That would be me if I'd be like,
yeah, yes,
"We'll be
yes.
back. Daddy will be
So
back."
I'll tell you right now, those front desk people at any boarding facility, they know how to diffuse this. They're like, "Oh, it's all good," right? Then you're gonna get the cheerleader antics from them. But yeah, so a lot of you are like, "Oh, they're gonna think that they're at the pound." If you've ever been to a shelter, most shelters, I'm gonna say most here, it's a metal cube with a litter box in it. There is no boarding facility that I have ever visited that does cats that has that as where your pet is gonna stay. First off. So almost all of us are big into enrichment and natural home style of board. So again, for mine, it's a 4 foot by 4 foot open wired kennel with a cat tower in there. It's got a cubby and another little cubby area. And we've got things hanging down for them to bat at while they're on their little cat towers. So we're all trying to make our spaces for the cats as home-like as humanly possible, while also focusing on sanitation and no diseases and parasites and all that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, that one always kills me when they're like, "I'm not dropping you off at the shelter. I'm not taking you. You're not going to be in a cage." And I'm like, "My facility's really nice and we do a really good job. Please don't say that."
I love
But
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, this
that
has
that's the
been
biggest one. Yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say, this is so insightful for me even because I don't know or I didn't know much of what to expect when just thinking about bringing my cats to a facility. So, I mean, I'm getting a better mental image now than I had 45 minutes ago. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean the big thing is, bring your food, figure out how the facility, would like you to bring it. So bring your food. Most facilities are going to have their own toys. Like I get some people that show up with a gallon-sized Ziploc bag of all these little plastic balls that look just like my plastic balls. So I don't want to put those in there because then we're going to get each other's toys confused. So most of us are going to have our own toys that we are going to provide. We've got climbing towers, we've got scratch pads. Um, Now, if your cat has like this is their favorite cardboard scratchy thing and it's not too big, and when I say too big, anything that's like a foot by a foot, so like those giant cardboard circles might be too big for the space. Um, but yeah, so again, we're gonna have almost everything. Bowls. We're going to have bowls. We're going to have litter boxes. We're going to provide litter. Now, that might be another question to ask. If you are using pellets versus a standard cat litter, that might be something that you need to ask if you need to
Mm,
bring pellets or not. If your cat is super sensitive um, and can't have scented litter, which most facilities are not going to use, by the way, but it would still be a good question to ask. Um, if by chance you're using a cedar chip or there's a cornmeal type of litter, if you're using something outside of just a standard clumping litter, that would be something to ask if you need to bring it or if the facility has it. But as far as the box goes, we've got you bowls, we've got you toys, we've got you scratching posts, we've got you um, entertainment, we have you. So food and something that smell like home, those are really the two most important things you definitely want to make sure you bring. Now, I'm going to break my one rule here when it comes to bowls. If your cat likes to play in its water dish and you have one of those special water dishes that, they have to tap on it to drink, please bring that because I don't need to be mopping the floor 5 times a day. But again, that's something to ask, can I bring my cat loves to play in water. I have a special water dish. Is it okay if I bring it? Most facilities would be like, yes, please do, because we don't want a wet cat. We don't want to have to be mopping things up. Um, Another thing is, if, again, as your cat aged, if you were doing a heating pad or things like that,
mm,
that's another good question to ask because as a facility that takes care of pets, we don't have a whole lot of outlets. They don't need to plug in their iPhones or their laptops, right? So we are very limited on where we have outlets. So you want to make sure that that is something that can be accommodated. Um, I actually had outlets put in two of my cat condos so I could accommodate something like
If you are a cat owner and you're thinking about bringing in a dog, but you're not sure how they're going to interact and behave and not go at each other's throats, what do you even do? We've got Eve here who specializes in animal behavior, including cats and dogs. So Eve, I would love to go through this scenario. So let's say I own a cat or two. I'm thinking about getting a dog, and this was me actually a few years ago with my previous two cats. I didn't foster a dog, but I was able to take it for a walk. I was considering bringing it into the household. My cats were probably, pretty well established, like 10 or 12 at the time. What are some tips for those people that are cat parents and they're thinking about bringing a dog into the household?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that you need to understand is that most animals operate using the three senses: sight, sound, and smell. Smell is a big one. Then we've got sight, and then we've got sound. So if you look at it in those categories, um, that's the primary way you want to introduce. So, cat is free roaming in the house. Cats have been established. Their smell is everywhere. For the first day or two, if you can segregate your cats into another part of the house where the dog is not going to see them, that is ideal. So then the dog can just meander around and be like, I smell something. I smell something, right? After 2 to 4 days, dog will be like, yep, that smell just exists here, right? It's a natural smell. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing they haven't really put two and two together. They just know the smell. So once everybody seems okay, and again, the cats have been segregated, so the dog is not seeing them. There's no opportunity for chase. It's simply smell. So then, if the dog's getting crated into the spare bedroom at night, the cats can then free roam the rest of the house because we just want everybody to take in each other's scent. That's the first part without there being a stimulus. So that's the key piece. No stimulus, just smell. It's kind of like um, if you've got a grandpa that used to smoke a pipe, right? Like you'd go over to his house and you'd be like, smell it. Grandpa was here. Yep.
Yep.
Got it. Right. Like you're taking in the smell, but there's no stimulus of him smoking the pipe and watching the little smoke come out of it or anything like that. You're just taking in the smell. So once you've done that, again, ideally 2 to 4 days would be good. Then what we ask you to do is take the crate and preferably extra large wire metal crate, put a little cubby so the cat can hide. Um, if you want, you can put in a litter box, but definitely a water bowl. And then you're going to put the cat in said crate
Mm.
and the dog on a leash. So dog goes outside to the back yard. You get this set up in the living room. The cat goes in. The cat can hide in the cubby. So that's the key thing. You want to give that cat opportunity to be able to hide, but can be seen. So we're going to see stimuli. We're going to smell the stimuli, but we're not chasing the stimuli, and there's not a whole lot of movement going on. So typically the cat's going to hide in the cubby because they're like, where am I and what is this? Dog comes in on a leash. You leave said leash on the dog. So the dog can go up, sniff. If the dog seems to start to get too excited, then the dog exits and then the cat gets to go, back upstairs or back somewhere else and everything gets put away and then the dog can come back in. So now we've seen stimuli, but we haven't allowed the dog to escalate and get super excited, right? Because the key is we want to stop the dog from even thinking about chasing. So you're going to repeat this 5 to 1 hour, 5 minutes to an hour each day for about a week. And if you can do it a couple times a day, that's ideal. The key that we want to work up to is that the cat is in the crate. The dog comes, sniffs, and walks away, goes about their day. The cat feels a little comfy, maybe comes out before we would ever let the two of them be in the same room together without a barrier. Because most of the time when the cat and dogs don't get along, it's because the cat comes in, goes, "Oh my God," runs, and the dog goes, "Heck yeah, let's play tag." And then that dog starts chasing the cat. So the objective is that the dog is smelling the cat can feel safe and comfortable, and that it doesn't feel the urge to run and escape, that they can just take it in a little bit at a time. Slow and steady wins the race on this.
Yes.
And that's really the key. Now, there are certain dogs that have a higher prey drive than others. And so I would just say be very cognitive of that, that that type of dog or that breed might not be a good fit in a household that already has your Malinois, your Shepherd, hounds, things that like to chase
Mm.
and either devour or chase it up a tree. So, like most hounds, when they're chasing raccoons, as an example, right? They chase the raccoon or the bear and then it goes up the tree. What does a cat do? Cat runs and then finds something high to go up onto. So, those are things to kind of consider, is looking at a dog that isn't naturally going to just have that instinct.
And then what about the opposite scenario? So let's say you're a dog household and you've been inspired to bring a cat in. What's the scenario like in that case?
Yeah. So, in that situation, you need some background on has the
Mm.
cat lived in a dog household before? And the reason for that is because it's a little bit more difficult um, in that scenario because the cat is going to be nervous coming in, right? Like you don't have that relationship with the cat. And a cat relationship is all about allowing them to explore their environment. Um, and again, is this a cuddly cat or are you getting a barn cat that you decided to domesticate into your house and is going to be like, why are you trying to touch me? I'm not into being touched. Leave me alone. Right. So, because you're introducing this and you need to spend time with, it's a little bit more complicated to segregate your dog for longer periods of time than it is to segregate a cat for longer periods of time. Right. Because the dog needs to go outside and potty. The dog is typically bigger and need more exercise. So, it is a little bit tougher. You need to have a better grasp of the background of the cat and if the cat has been around dogs. The cat has been around dogs, then you're gonna do the same scenario, um, where smell, 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 go away. So in that scenario, I definitely need to crate your dog at night. And so if you have a dog that's never been crated before, this is gonna add an extra challenge, right? Because you need to allow that cat to explore the whole house at night. while the dog is put away.
Amazing. Uh,
All a process, and
yeah,
the thing that most people make mistakes of is they rush the process because they
yeah,
want everybody to get along. They want everybody to be cohesive.
right.
You've gotta give it time. I mean, if you were to move to Portugal tomorrow, how long do you think it would take you to acclimate, right?
Yeah, a little
It's a
while.
process. It's
Yeah.
a process to, bringing that cat into the dog home. The cat's like, "Where am I? What's that noise?"
Mhm.
And it doesn't know what all the things are. So you have to give it opportunity to relax and get into the vibe of your household, without the dog there going, "Hey, what are you doing? Hey, you want to play with me? Hey, can I sniff your butt? Hey, can I eat your food? Hey, why do you go in this box? What does this smell like?" Because that is what a dog is going to do to that cat. So it is a little bit more complicated when you're going to introduce that cat into a dog household. You need to have a cat that's been around dogs or is dog savvy. And most dogs are going to be accepting of a cat coming in, maybe instead of another dog. Again, unless it's got a higher prey drive.
One of the most challenging things I've found being a cat parent is cats o- oftentimes are stressed, they're anxious, especially if they're put in a new situation. So I've actually moved across country with two cats on several occasions. And it was always very stressful for me as the cat owner to put my cat in a car for, 2, 3 straight days, um, keeping them in hotels overnight for a night while I moved to a new location. Of course, taking them to a vet can be very stressful. And I think this is pretty common for us cat parents or cats that are stressed because of situations like that, or even going to a boarding facility or being introduced to a new pet in the household, like a dog. So, Eve, I want to maybe circle back onto this topic and talk about resiliency in cats. First of all, what do you mean by resiliency in cats when we think about, trying to get a cat that can adapt to multiple different types of environments? What is that? What does that look like exactly? And then how do we actually get there?
Sure. So, and you really nailed it, right? Like all the things that you had to do, and your cats were like, "Oh my god, I don't know what's going on. It's a lot." So resiliency in cats just means that they're adaptable, that they are like, "Oh, huh, the chair moved. Cool, right? Oh, my food's over here. Okay, I got it. Oh, what's all this stuff on the floor? Okay, whatever. I'm not going to pee in the shoe. It's fine." You know. So people a lot of times don't think that their cats need some resiliency. How many times are there thunderstorms and your cat is tucked under somewhere, right? A lot of times people don't think about storms and cats. They do with dogs, because the dogs have to go outside, but they don't think about the cat hears the thunder and the lightning flash and those things too. So building up that resiliency in your cats to be like, yeah, cool, I want to keep going, is important. Lots of different ways to do it. Um, One is to move things around every now and again. So think of it as almost like a hide and seek type of scenario, right? So instead of if you have a spare bedroom, and this is what I always like to use, right? So many cats love to steal the spare bedroom. It becomes the cat room, coincidentally, right? That's where the comforter is that the cats love to lay on. Maybe it's got a nice window that the sun beats in. Next time you make the bed, put the pillows on the opposite end. Do something different,
Mm.
right? If your cat always comes in and snips your shoes when you come home from work, put your shoes on the other side of the room, and you'll see the cat and be like, "Why are they over there?" Right? Getting your cats to explore. So use smell. Now, you have to be careful when you use smell in your house. So there is the benefit of the dog. We can do smell outside. So be careful using smell in your house. But truly, if you're a cat, eats a chicken-based food, you have roasted chicken for the night, take some little slivers of it and, let your cat snip it, and then maybe see if you can lure your cat to climb up onto the chair and then down off the chair and go underneath your kitchen chair, right? Like, see if you can do some things, asking your cat to do things that aren't normal etiquette for your cat, or take little pieces of chicken and maybe they like to go into your bathroom and sit up on the toilet. Put a little piece of chicken on the counter, maybe, or on the back of the toilet so they can be like, oh, what is that? That's interesting. They're starting to make a lot of cat food enrichment toys. So those are usually balls that are circular and they have a hole in them. So you put the cat's food in there. They make a ton of them for dogs, but they're starting to make them for cats. So then your cat has to bat this ball around and eat its food. And then the cat is exploring new environments while taking in a great stimulus. Um, Snuffle mats are a thing for dogs. Basically, just take a really shaggy rug. TJ Maxx is my favorite place to go and get them. And then take your cat's dry food and just sprinkle it in the rug. So then the cat has to forage. Things are touching its face while it's foraging for food. If your cat was feral and out in the world, it would have to forage for its food. So doing things that are going to create a stimulus, create something different for them is super important. Also, a lot of times while your cat is eating food, grab your phone, go to Google and do thunderstorms and make noise. That's kind of an important thing because you want your cat to hear the noise while enjoying something positive. So just like we do these things with dogs, we tell kids, "Oh, don't worry," we make up all sorts of excuses for thunder and lightning for little kids. You want to do those same things for your cat. I actually have a friend, and she took my resiliency to like the next level. And about every 3 months, she rearranges the furniture in her living room. She'll go so far as she will take pictures and kind of line them up on the wall, on the floor. So where the floor and the wall meet, she'll have just pictures there that the cat likes to go through as a tunnel. And then every couple of months, she'll just hang those pictures up, take other pictures down. She'll go to flea markets and find things. So really just creating environments where your cat has to step outside of its norm. And again, using food as that reward thing or using food as that lure to get them to do different things. Um, I think one of the greatest things that I love to see is when people have shelving on their walls and then the cats have to problem solve to get from A to B. That is building resiliency, right? That's building confidence in your cat that like, hey, I can do this. Watch me. Um, and it just creates that sense that the cat feels like it can accomplish things, that it can problem solve. It's a great stimulus for the cat, truly is. And by just having a cat that is willing to explore and to go do new things and to try things, builds that resiliency. So then when you need to put them in the car, they'll be like, oh, this is something new. Oh, this must be something fun, just like dad did before. Um, it just makes it so the cat's not like, ooh, I have never left the four walls of my house, never explored underneath anything. I am scared to death.
Yeah.
Um, and you can always tell when you've pushed it a little too far, right? Like we can tell we're seeing dandruff on our cat. Um, they have diarrhea. They're ignoring us and hiding out because we might have asked a little too much of them. That's fine. You just give them that moment. You give them that grace, and then we try again and maybe back the steps up a little bit. Like right now, I'm looking in your background, like taking a little piece of food and like luring the cat along in the back of the couch, and then seeing if you can lure them down onto the seat, and then lure them down onto the floor. The cats be like, you know what, Dad is awesome. He just took me on this little adventure, and then I got a piece of food. That's what we want to see with our. I think for years, the cats have just kind of existed in our households and they can do so much more. They can be so much more.
Mhm.
Um, in fact, I'm pretty sure at Global Pet Expo, I'm going to see my favorite orange cat that comes and the cat does demos of the various activities that you can do. So it's super fun to see what we can do with our pets and how we can just have a deeper relationship with.
Yeah, when I was moving from, Colorado to Tennessee with my 2 previous cats, Mia and Nomar,
Mhm.
you know, like a lot of us, they really besides my other moves, they really had only been in the car to go to the vet.
Sure.
So, I decided to, um, try to build some resilience by putting them and getting them used to the carrier and then putting them in the car with the motor on and then taking them on short drives and kind of building that up. I think where I didn't do well is I didn't allow enough time. Like that
Right.
process probably would have been better over several months instead of just like the week before my 19-hour move, right? And so I think I'm guessing like allowing enough time for them to build that resilience is
Yeah.
important.
And just randomly doing it.
Mm,
That's the other thing too. The more random you can just do things, the more they're like, oh, we're doing this today. Not a big deal. Super fun. Another fun thing that I love that people can do is take treats, put them in little Ziploc bags or Tupperware. It might need to do Tupperware containers with cats. Had to rethink that one.
yeah.
And just put those cups throughout your house. You know, um, and let's say, you're in your sunroom, call the cats. You can get them to come and give them a treat, right? The more that you can do some basic obedience type of stuff with your
Mm,
animals, the more that they trust you. And that's a key factor too, right? If your animals don't trust you and you ask them to do something new, they're going to be like, well, last time I trusted them, I got something shoved in my butt and I was not a pleasant experience, right? Like, hey, I got a shot last time. That was not fun. I got held down. So the more that you can just work on come when called with your cat, and then there's a great reward afterwards, whether that's food or just a lot of scratches or whatever it is that they enjoy. Um, you're just building that relationship and that trust factor. So then when you do have to move, when you do have to do the thing, it's not as traumatic for them because they know that after you've kind of pushed the levels a little bit, that there's a positive thing that's gonna come out on the backside of it, which is love and affection or some food. So that's really important. Yeah, and if you're doing these resiliency things as just part of your natural life. So, like, maybe it's Sunday and every commercial, grab a piece of food during a football game and then do some fun things with your that's a lot that I talk to people that have behavioral issues with their dogs. And like, Um, just plan that every commercial, you are going to do something fun with your pet. That's great.
I love that because as a fitness professional, that's something I've shared with my clients. Every commercial, do an exercise. You
Yes.
you'll get in your workout. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
100%. And that's it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be this big ordeal. If you just do little snippets of it and just build that into your everyday activities, then it's natural.
Mm. Eve, oh my gosh, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I love these conversations because I'm learning so much because I don't know any of this. I just have 2 cats and I love them and I have fun with them. So a lot of this is new for me. So I wanted to first thank you for being here. And just if you don't mind, could you share with the viewers and listeners, I guess, any resources you have or just websites or ways to connect with you if maybe they want to follow you and maybe have
Yeah.
follow-up questions for you.
So a lot of my snippets of information you'll find on Dog Handler Academy. It's an employee training platform for the dog daycare, cat boarding, dog boarding, small animal boarding industry. So I do try and throw snippets of animal behavior stuff out on there as well as business stuff. So that's the primary place to find me is Dog Handler Academy on Facebook, Instagram, and we do have a website. The other piece that I recommend for a lot of people is the American Veterinary Association has lots of free information on pets.
Mm.
So certainly go to them. They have a resources section, lots of great info for you to just learn more. And my next conference coming up is the International Association of Animal Behavior. And I always love to go to that one again. They have free resources as well. So IAABC is their acronym, and they cover every species. There's birds and horses and aquatics. So lots of great information on them too.
Sounds amazing. And you have a nonprofit, Second Chance to Shine. What are you
I
doing with that?
do, yeah. So my nonprofit, we take in up to 14 dogs from rescues and shelters across the Midwest, and normally they need behavioral training, and that behavioral training is not always aggression, and that's a huge misconception. A lot of those animals come from either hoarding situations, um, or from puppy mills, and they don't know how to be a dog.
Mm.
And so we utilize our daycare environment, and I have 4 phenomenal trainers that work with me to help them become more adaptable and get over their fears and become more resilient.
How amazing. And then I noticed you also won a Remarkable Women Campaign Award locally there. So incredible work you
That
are
was
doing. What's that?
that was so much fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was my local market's remarkable woman, and then I was chosen out of 486 local remarkable women across the United States. There was 110 of us that went out to Los Angeles to compete for a national award. And although I did not win that, I met so many phenomenal people. And I met a lady from upstate New York that has a rescue ranch, and she does behavior modifications for chickens and goats and all sorts of animals. So to say that we talk to animals might be an understatement.
Oh my gosh. Well, Eve, just wanted to thank you for the work that you're doing, making the world a better place because you're making animals better, and giving them just amazing care. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for being a special guest here on the Cat Dad Show.
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope everybody does some enrichment activities with their cats. I want to see a lot more bonding and building that relationship.
I definitely will myself. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Cat Dad Show, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.